Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Awaken to Your Soul Path. I am your host, Barbara, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Louise Lewis. And our topic for today is Awakening the Wealthy Witch Within. Yes, I got it out in one go, and I'm so excited to talk about this because I've been embracing my witchy side more and more and more, and my witchy side wants to be wealthy. And I know a lot of other people in a similar positions, so I've been looking forward to talking about this. So thank you so much for being my guest today, Louise.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I am so excited to talk about this topic with you too.
Right? So maybe a good place to start is the beginning of your witchy journey, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I might go back slightly, just slightly before, because I think it's important for context. So let's call it my awakening journey started in 2018. And for me, it started like I think it starts for a lot of people with burnout and a decision to leave a corporate career behind. Okay. Now, at this point, I was unknowingly completely disconnected from myself, from nature, from spirit, from all of the things around. I'd been raised a Catholic. I'd kind of moved away from that as a teen. Um, and so it just wasn't a part of my journey at all. And I dove into personal development as a perfectionist, right? From this place of, I'm going to work through everything I need to work through so I never feel this bad again. Like that was the driver. Um, But what I noticed as I moved through more and more layers was these unexpected things started to happen, right? So I remembered this curiosity and love that I had for crystals as a kid. When we used to go to the local museum, I always wanted an amethyst. I found myself drawn to things like sound bowls and sound baths. And the place where I felt the most peaceful, the most content, the most me was when I was out in nature.
Hmm. Me too.
Yeah, right. And so the more of this stuff that happened, the more I then became connected to spirit, then the fascination in astrology and the planets and the moon cycles came in, and all of these different pieces that I wasn't expecting started to happen. I
Hmm.
did a lot of trauma work, trauma resolution work on myself. I became reconnected to my body. All of a sudden, you reconnected to your body, the intuition starts to come in, the nudges, the psychic gifts. And then I sort of remember as a kid being actually psychic on certain occasions, but you sort of get told that you're nonsense, so you push it down.
Hmm.
And so for me, like the awakening of the witchy stuff has been a real slow burn
Hmm.
until probably last year. And I think more and more of it was coming through. So I do my oracle cards and my tarot cards in the morning, and I do my sage and I share it on my social media. So people were starting to see more of this aspect of me that I'd been keeping hidden, of like, can't let anybody know about this stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but then my clients started sharing stuff with me that they hadn't shared with anyone else about their witchy sides and the spirits that they saw and the experiences that they had. And it was almost like it all came together of like, I need to stop hiding. I need to allow this stuff because I'd also had these experiences where like I felt a presence on my bed or I felt a presence hold my hand and it had freaked me out.
Hmm.
It had freaked me out and I'd sort of pushed it away and I was like, no, 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 I don't want this.
Hmm.
But to get back to this place of this isn't wrong, it isn't weird, it isn't abnormal. I'm not weird. I mean, like in the context of how normal people are, it's not that normal, but like this is the natural place.
Yes.
And so, very long answer to your question, but so like that was sort of the journey. And then this thing of like, and the more I started talking about it, the more people came to me and were sharing their gifts and the parts of themselves that they were hiding. And I was like, I can't keep hiding this anymore because there's like this underground coven, for want of a better word, of women and actually also some men that really need to awaken and bring their gifts forward.
For sure. Yes. Yeah, you touch upon some really, really great points. Because for most of us, it already starts when we are very young. I think we are born into this world perfect. We are
Mm,
perfect the way we are, and we have these natural talents, these natural gifts, and because they are so natural, they are very normal to us, and we use them because it's who we are. And then our environment, usually our parents, maybe also other family members or teachers at school start
mhm,
to dim our light. They start to tell, don't be so weird. Don't be so strange. Oh, you have no business of knowing that. Stop that. Don't do that. You know, things that make us feel that the thing that felt so natural is not okay. And most of us have imaginary friends, or I knew things with absolute certainty without knowing how I knew it, but I knew it, and that scared the bejesus out of people. Yeah,
mm,
and then they made me feel like there was something wrong with me, and that ended up in me denouncing a big part of myself because it felt like I cannot be that person. I cannot do these things because they're judged negatively or perceived negatively, and that moves you away from the person that you actually are. And in the work that I do, I've heard stories similar to this very often. So I think for most of us with natural gifts, this tends to happen a lot.
yeah,
And then eventually we want to reconnect with that part because it is who we are. So we cannot not be that person for the rest of our lives. There will be a moment, it can be a little bit sooner, it can be a bit later. I've seen it happen 18, but also in 50s, 60s, and anywhere in between, where this moment comes in your life and you, for me, it was also a burnout. Where I just felt like I lost everything. I literally lost everything. And it was the journey of the start of my journey of self-discovery, where I started to discover who I actually am and what my natural gifts are, and where I reconnected with my body, with my intuition, with my gifts, until the level where I am right now. But this is an important topic to talk about because a lot of us either get lost in the suppression of our gifts for a very long time, or we don't really know how to allow them back in.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's completely right. And I think so for me, when I started my coaching diploma, which was the end of 2018, you sort of had to go through this process where you had to determine like your overall goal. So we had to have coaching ourselves as part of the diploma. And my overall goal was to be able to say it's okay to be me and really mean it. And it's looking at like how that has evolved and moved and changed and grown. And I think that's it for a lot of us. We get to this point in our lives, and it might be burnout or a health diagnosis or a loved one dies, and we realize that we don't know who we are.
Exactly.
It's like we've lost sight of ourselves. It's like, well, I'm going through this treadmill of life, but I actually don't know who I am. Like I remember the therapist when I was signed, so I was signed off work with stress um in September 2018. And the therapist was like, go off, do things that you find fun.
Yes, that's what they told me after the burnout as well. And I thought,
I
but
wanted to go on.
what do I like? What
Yeah,
do I do?
honestly, I wanted to throw a brick at her face. Like, I know that's not very kind. I was like, because in that moment, not only did I realize that I have no idea what I find fun, I was like, I don't know who I am.
Yes.
I literally don't know who I am. So I used to be a tax lawyer. I'm like this lady that gets up at the crack of dawn to go to the gym before work because it's literally the only thing that I can do for myself to try and get myself through the day, other than like mainlining caffeine all day long, to go
Hmm.
into the office and do a job that I hate. And I am an introvert
Hmm.
and highly sensitive and didn't realize this. Spent my entire day going from meeting to meeting to meeting, getting more and more and more stimulated to
Yes.
go home, try and recover, sleep badly, and go and do the whole thing the next day. I didn't know who I was in all of that. And you're
Yeah.
right. I think there is more and more people wake up to that thing of like, well, actually, no, I do want to know who I am and I do want to live life on my terms.
Exactly. Yes. My story is roughly similar as yours. And I worked in IT for a long time. I worked in IT for 18 years. And I also discovered I'm a highly sensitive person, and I never knew this about myself. I didn't even know what it meant or what it looked like. And the discovery of that, it felt sort of like I came home to myself. This first bit, and later on in my journey, I discovered that even within highly sensitive people, I'm still in the top 2%. So I'm still weird within high sensitive
Oh,
people.
wow.
And I think that's also my biggest transformation if I look back at it. I used to think I was weird and that there was something wrong with me and that it was bad, negative, and that needed to be fixed, that I needed to fix myself, something along those lines. And now I think I'm weird and I'm strange and I'm loving it. It's who I am. I've embraced
Yeah,
it. Welcome to
yeah,
my world.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
brilliant.
And this is a very big, I think that's also actually why it happens. We have been living a life that is not our own for a variety of reasons. And I often use the analogy is we are a square peg and we've tried to stuff ourselves into the round hole because everybody is a round peg and you need to go through the round hole. And we've hammered it and we've tried to shave bits off. And we've
Yeah,
tried to tweak it so that it would go through that round hole, and
yeah,
it's not fitting. No matter what we try, no matter what we're doing, it's not fitting. It's not going through that round hole because we are a square peg. And these cataclysmic events happen
mm,
to shake us up, to wake us up. And I was talking about it yesterday with someone also, where we talked about it almost seems that that's necessary. Things need to become so bad
yeah.
for us to finally be open to a different path, to something else.
Yeah, and I think that's completely right. And like, it doesn't matter how many times I've tried. I'm like, no, but we can get people in earlier. We can get people in earlier. It's like, no, I think you're right. You've got to get to a point where it's so bad that you're forced into change. Like,
Yes.
whatever that looks like, because we are so deeply conditioned to like, it's like we get this invisible checklist, or sometimes it's not so invisible, of like, this is how you're going to build a successful life. So you need to go to school and you need to work hard, and then you need to go to university and you need to work hard, and then you need to get a job and then you need to work hard. And you need to do all of these things, and it needs to be really, really hard. Now, some of us also get the narrative of, and you need to meet a nice man, and you need to buy a house, and you need to have children, and
Yes.
you need to do all of these different things. And if you do all of these different things, then you will be happy. And we now I haven't gone down the children route, but I ticked most of the other boxes, right?
Mhm.
Did my
Yes.
fancy stuff, right? And then you get to a point and you're like, okay, well, I completed the checklist and I feel like shit. So,
Yes.
so what's going on? And I think that for me also is where the wealthy bit of Wealthy Witches comes in, because we are so and this is why I think people don't make the change, because we are so conditioned of like, we know we need money to live.
Hmm.
We get a big narrative about having lots of money is
Yes.
good, or sometimes we get a narrative that having lots of money is bad, but we all basically need money to live, right? It's one of the basic things
Money
that
makes
we
the world
require.
go round. That's the fact.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that keeps us the most fearful and the most stuck, because the fear is like, if I don't keep doing this thing, then it's going to run out, the money's going to run out, I'm not going to be able to have the lifestyle, I'm not going to have all of these things. And so this conditioning is so strong of like, in order to have the money, I have to sacrifice, I have to work hard, I have to have the pain, I have to follow this checklist,
Yes.
right? And then we do this work and we look for alternative ways. But then also, if we also have a spiritual awakening, there's also then this disconnect of like, oh, but I shouldn't earn money from like my spiritual gifts, or I shouldn't earn money from this piece. And then that all then gets messy again. And I think that then again also keeps people away from using their gifts and working with it as well. And so the paradigm of the wealthy witch is, it's not, or maybe it is anti-capitalist, but I'm not here to be like down with the system.
Yeah.
But it's about a new paradigm where actually we see money as energy, we see ourselves as limitless beings, and it's
Mhm.
about actually I can get paid well for doing the work that is like what I came here to do, like literally what I came here to do.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be like I'm here to do this big mission in the world and I must suffer.
No, but that is traditionally how we've been raised. Eh? I was
Yeah,
also raised with if you don't have the results you want, you're not working hard enough. You need to try harder, you
100%.
need to do more. And then you try harder and you do more and you work yourself in a burnout and you're still not having the things that they promise that will come when you work that hard. And
Yeah.
you have to sort of hit the wall at high speed. For you to finally have that much of a concussion that you're
Yeah.
open to other ways of thinking, sort of, and it's all the paradigms, indeed, the limiting beliefs, the faulty autopilot programs. I call them the rules, the bullshit rules of society, along
Yeah.
with the rules of your family,
Mhm.
traditions that have been handed down from generation to generation. Also, a
Yeah.
lot of things that are normal for specific countries or for specific race. That's also what
Yeah.
I'm seeing, and they keep us stuck. In the end, they're keeping us stuck, and I think it's because we just accept them as truth. We accept them as gospel instead of thinking, well, okay, this is an interesting theory. Is this also true for me personally?
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, this is an interesting theory, or this is an interesting system. Whose interests is it really serving?
Yes.
Why is this system really in place? Do I like this system? How do I want to operate within this system? Because again, we get told like, so I mean, neither of us are from America, but like we've all seen enough films to be like, oh, the American dream. And it's like, okay, but who is the American dream serving?
Yes.
Like who is this serving? And then you take a step back, and I think this also naturally happens as part of the like self-development, awakening, whatever journey. You take a step back and you're like, hang on a minute. A lot of this is bullshit, and it definitely is not set up to serve humanity. We still need to operate within systems. There still needs to be laws and structures and all of the rest of it.
Mhm.
But how do we go about it in a way that's actually good for us and good for everybody else as well?
Yes, and it means that you need to start looking within for the answers instead of without. And most of
Yeah.
us, we are looking for outside answers, answers outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to learn something new. Maybe I haven't read the
Mm.
right book yet. Maybe I haven't met the right person yet. Maybe I haven't healed the right part yet, or things
Mm.
like that. And it's very logical, because that's also how a society portrays it and tells it and
Mm.
shows it. So it's very normal that we think that way, but in the end, the answers are within yourself. So it's about finding the truth for you. So if we take the thing of if you're not successful enough, you haven't worked hard enough, and
Mm.
you need to work harder. And you think, well, who's that serving? Well, definitely not me, because the harder I work, the more exhausted I am, the less energy I have for things that I also like to do. If I have the fortunate circumstances that I actually like my job, because most of us don't even like our job. So then you're constantly working, 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 and then you see the big corporations walk away with millions of profit every year. But does that profit trickle down to you? Does your salary increase every year with shocking amounts, or do you get wonderful bonuses that are directly tied to the amount of profit the company earns based of your hard work? No. And so working harder, especially when you're working for a boss, does not serve you personally, it serves your boss. So these are indeed
Yeah.
very important things to look at, but it goes a lot deeper than that. And this is a journey that requires um, strength, it requires deep honesty, and it also requires determination, because it's going to get uncomfortable before it
Mm.
gets comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. And I think the other thing, just to say on the back of what you were just saying as well, is I think a lot of us, so I when I was 16, we did exams over here called GCSEs. So that bit doesn't really matter. And a lot of my friends were getting money. So like their parents were like, for every A you get, you can have this. For every B you get, you can get this, right? And my dad was like, and his intentions were good, right? But my dad was like, no, 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 no. Like you don't get any money for your exam results because your reward in life are your results and what you can then do with them. And I very much got this narrative of like, you need to, in order to be able to feel comfortable, you need to be able to say that you've done your best. And in order to be able to say you've done your best, you need to basically do everything that you can. Now, the problem with that is when we live in a society where many of us, especially women, are, I'm going to use the word trained. We can talk about it if you want to, but like we develop
Conditioned.
people pleasing and perfectionism,
Yeah.
right? So, and the perfectionism one is hard ingrained, right? And it's very protective and it's very great. But if you're a perfectionist, ask me how I know.
I am
And
also a
your
recovering
right,
perfectionist, so I get it. Yes.
and your narrative is in order to basically be worthy and earn the right to exist and to be able to say that I've done enough, I need to do everything that I can.
Yes.
I mean, you can use them 24 hours in a day because there's never enough. There's always more to do. And then that is just a road to absolute disaster.
Yeah, because then you're never enough, because there's always
Yeah,
more to do. I struggled
yeah.
with that one as well.
Mm.
I always felt, my mother actually said, you can only call in sick when you can really not get out of bed anymore in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? And that's basically a big contribution to why I ended up in a burnout, because it wasn't that I didn't see it coming. I saw it coming. And I also went to my manager and I said to him multiple times, it's not going the way it's supposed
Yeah.
to. I'm feeling this and I can see it going in that direction. And they kept promising to do something about it and it just never happened. But because I felt like I cannot call in sick because I can still get out of bed, that it became harder and harder to get out of bed. Who cares? That I started postponing going to bed in the evening because then felt like I was postponing having to get up in the morning. Who cares? We didn't talk about that. And we just kept doing and trying and then talking again and signaling again. So everything in your power that you can do, because that is how you've been raised. That's what you've been taught.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when the narrative is, the conditioning, whatever you want to call it, is if you tick all of these boxes, then you'll be successful and you're fine, right? And then you layer in perfectionism as well. When you're at that point of there's too much going on, I can't do it all. It's almost like you internalize the blame. It's like it's my fault. So if I just work harder, if I just do more, if I just add in these extra things, then maybe it will be okay, which I think happens a lot. So it's almost like we see ourselves as the problem. And sometimes we're obviously a part of it, but we see
Mm.
ourselves as the problem rather than like the system. And often the system, and especially in a corporate system, is like, well, you're asking me to do three people's jobs.
Yes.
And that's kind of nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's literally what happens. I saw that with my dad. He was driving a truck. He was delivering books, and he had a specific route, going through bookstores and delivering books there. And then the first time he did the route, he had an hour left in the time that he worked. So his boss thought, "Oh, that's good. We can give you more because you have time left."
Oh,
And then he did that within the set time. And he thought, oh, that's good. We can give you more. And he did that within the set time. Oh, it's good. We can give you more. And it just kept going and going and going until he was near burnout because he just didn't know how to get everything done within the set time anymore.
yeah. Yeah. And that way of working as well really does not go well for people who are efficient.
No, definitely not. For people who don't want to, we have a saying for it in my language. So I'm trying to think of what it might be in English. So it's you want to do your best. That comes from the perfectionism. So you want to do everything in your power to not let the boss down and to do what is expected of you, instead of just thinking, oh, I did three-quarters of it. That's also fine enough. There are certain people who have this way of living, but there are also a lot of people who cannot
Yeah.
live with themselves if their mentality was like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the latter tends to be the people that I work with because that's a version of me.
Yes.
And the industry that I came from, I don't know how it was in the IT industry, but kind of professional services, because you work for multiple clients, your days are basically split into 6-minute chunks. You have to record your time to different clients.
Yes.
Now, and then you also have hours targets. So like there's a certain number of hours that you're supposed to bill within a year. Now, if you're a super efficient person and you do in 5 hours what it takes someone else to do in 10 hours, you've still got the same hours target. So you're then doing twice the work.
I'm very happy that you are mentioning this because this is actually also one of the things that I ran into head first in my job. I
Mm.
became a Scrum Master, so that means that I needed to do the project management. This is it's sort of a project management tool. And in the
Yeah.
beginning, we needed to identify tasks, and then we needed to say this task takes 8 hours, that task takes 3 hours. And so that if we have a sprint of 2 weeks, we knew exactly how many tasks would make 2 weeks, and that is
Yeah.
then what we could do. And the first time I picked up a task that was set to take 8 hours, I, with two fingers up my nose, half asleep in 4 hours, I was done with it.
Mm.
And the first time that happened, I thought, oh, they probably, thought it was more difficult or something like that. So the next time we did the planning session, I was more sharp on, are you absolutely sure it's going to take 8 hours? And I made them refine it and go over it. No, no, it was absolutely true. And then it happened again. And that's how I discovered that I indeed also work a lot faster than other
Mm.
people in the same position or with the same job. And if you are being honest about it, which I also always was very honest, then you get twice the workload.
Yeah, yeah, and it catches up with you in the end. Is
Yeah.
that so? So is that I'm not agile trained, but is that like the agile approach that you're
Yeah.
talking about? Yeah,
Scrum is one of the agile ways of
yeah,
working. Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So I learned that I should not be honest about it and just take the 8 hours that were for it. But that also went into how I was raised because it felt dishonest.
Mm.
Working 4 hours on a task that was planned for 8 hours and then 4 hours just doing something different. I didn't feel like that. I know. I cannot do that, right? So
Yeah,
then you get into this conundrum within, or maybe even without, where you have this and you notice that, and but the results of being honest are this, and then you can end up in a position where you don't know what to do, which also causes a lot of stress.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think half the problem, and this is like just something that I've been thinking about more recently, but I think also half of the problem is while we're trying to fit ourselves the square peg into the round hole or all of the rest of it, or we've got the checkbox, or we've got all of these different things. Like school does not prepare you for the work that you and I do now, right?
No,
Like
yeah,
there's not a thing at school of like, oh, so you might be like a healer, you might be an empath, like you might be here to elevate the consciousness of humanity. Can you imagine how good
yeah.
that would that be?
You
Right.
might
And
heal
so I
people
think
with your hands. Yeah.
yeah, but so I think the other challenge is when people can get to this crossroads of like, don't like this job, or I don't want to do this thing, or like it's not quite working for them. It's then and because I don't know if you've ever done career coaching, but people are always like, oh, I don't want to do this thing anymore. I don't know what it is that I want to do instead. And quite often it's almost like, well, like, can you take me through a test? Or like, is there an assessment? Like, is there a book with all the jobs in? I
Yeah.
can then like go through and be like, oh, I was actually meant to be a chef, or I was meant to be this, that, and the other.
Answer a couple of questions and then have a clear answer come out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so like so you've got that in the mix, then you've got the other bit in the mix that most people learned that they needed to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer in order to like tick the boxes. Like these are the things that we should do.
Yes.
Um, and then you get to that point of like, and I don't really know where I'm going with this, but it feels important to say so you can help tease out what needs to come out. But then you get to that point of, okay, well, I don't know, you have the burnout or you have the shift. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. Don't know what I'm here to do. And a part of me is really wondering as I go through my own journey if a big thing of that is because what you're actually meant to do is not in a career book.
For sure. Yes. That is the conclusion that I've reached now with the 14 years that I've had my business.
Mm.
And my personal journey, but also what I've seen with the clients that I was fortunate enough to
Mm.
be able to guide, is that the thing that we are supposed to be doing, it's already stored in our DNA. So it's
Yes.
something that has always been our destiny, if you believe
Mm.
in destinies, or our mission, or our purpose, or whatever word you want to give it. And it's
Yeah.
definitely not something that you're learning in school. I've always had difficulties with school itself because I thought, well, who the hell is going to use this when I'm an adult? And when I was
Mm.
an adult working for the boss, I almost never used any of the things they made me learn in school. And I've always found it incredibly lacking that they don't teach things like nonviolent communication or proper communication to begin with.
Mm.
I think so many problems have a communication issue at the root of it. Or
Yeah.
what is intuition? How do I listen to it? How can I feel it in my body? Or what is empathy? Being
Mm.
empathetic, being kind, kindness,
Yeah.
things like that. Or how do I embrace myself? How do I get to know who I really am? Instead of trying to force myself into a box, being someone that is defined by someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. Until and then we have to do the work as adults at whatever point it hits.
We are born into this world perfectly. We
Yeah.
sort of lose our way as soon as we go
Mm.
into school. Then we end up in a severe burnout or a failed marriage or an abused relationship or whatever type of crisis we end up in. And then we have to work our asses off to unlearn everything that we've learned that is not serving us to eventually get back to the person we already were before four.
Mm. Yeah.
Sometimes I think, oh, this is so sad.
I know. I know. I remember saying to my therapist once, I was like, "What's the fucking point?"
Yeah. But what I'm also seeing is that the newer generations, the younger generations, because everything is changing, because our
Mm.
society is also changing from a rational, logical society to a society that's more open to intuition, that the younger generations come into the world much different than we came into this world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Except for like probably the generation above us who are like, oh, the snowflakes, all this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm like, these are the leaders of the future. These are the guys that are going to make big, big difference. I've got quite, so as I said before, I'm not a parent. I've got quite a few clients with what I'm going to call like very gifted children, and their
Mhm.
children might be quite young. They took like sort of 6, 7, 8, and the stuff that their kids come out with, and like the deep intuition and the deep powers and all the rest of it. And I'm like, this is great, like absolutely great. And I don't know if you ever talk about things on here like sort of star seeds
Yes.
or that kind of thing, but I'm like some of my, especially the kids, and I don't have like I don't have a scientific answer for this. It's just a sense, but like some of the kids who are gifted but maybe like present as quite like autistic or on the spectrum or different things because
Mm.
they're trying to operate in a world that they don't quite belong in, but you can see that they're here to
Yes.
create massive shifts. And I think it's brilliant because I think you're right. I think we are. I think that this is another reason why it feels so important for me to talk more about the wealthy witch movement, is because we are at this point where consciousness is shifting, humanity is changing, and we are, oh my God, please, 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 hopefully, moving towards a time where it is more about how do we take care of each other? How do we take care of the world? Like, how do we do things better?
How do we reconnect with nature again? Because that's also
Yeah.
one of my greatest um, the, um, shames or sadnesses, I think. We used to be very close to nature. There
Mm.
were, we call them grandmother's remedies. How to get
Mm.
stains out, or how to treat a
Yeah.
sinus infection, or things with natural remedies. And we've gone over to the whole science era where we only have pills and medicine and stuff. And
Yeah.
we've sort of lost the contact with the earth. We're no longer sleeping on the earth. We're no longer walking barefoot on the earth. We're no longer collecting the nuts, the seeds, the fruits ourselves. It's presented often in a supermarket. We have no idea how to use natural remedies or herbs or any of those things to improve our health. We are very much dependent on people who say they know what they're doing.
Mm.
without us even questioning if that is true. And I am also hoping, and it does feel that way, that we are going towards a world where that connection is also restored, where
Yeah.
the remedies of old come back, where we live more in line with the seasons, with the changing of the seasons, but also
Yeah.
well, you could call it the pagan ways of doing
Yeah.
things, where you honor the moon cycle, or where you honor spring or the darkest night of the year and things like that. Because especially as women, we are connected to the moon cycle, whether we want to, yes or no, whether we believe in it,
Yeah.
yes or no, it does not matter. We are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, all of that is like that returning to the natural place. And you're
Yes.
right, it's interesting because the more we tune into it, the more we know. So I mean, we can call it luck, we can call it whatever we want, but my therapist is a trained herbalist and he's really into like traditional Chinese medicine and stuff. So
Mm,
I've been working with him for about 2.5 years now. And so what's been amazing is that he's been able to kind of teach and introduce me and get me in touch with more of these things. And it is really interesting now. So like I had my monthly cycle last week and I noticed like my hips were like, honest to God, I was like, this is not meant to feel this way. It's so tight. Like, what's going on? And then I'm like, right, we're coming up to spring, traditional Chinese medicine. Okay, it's the liver and the gallbladder. I'm like, is it my liver? I'm like, it's not the liver meridian. Then look at the gallbladder meridian. I'm like, oh, it's the gallbladder. And just going through this whole process of like, okay, my gallbladder needs some support. So what am I going to bring in? What foods am I going to do? What cleansing am I going to do? How am I going to support my gallbladder and my system as I move into spring? And I know that one of my big things is like the liver and the anger and all of this sort of stuff I can now tune into
mm.
when I just see into my body, okay, like what is it that I need? Versus I'm having PMT before my period and I've got cramp, so let me take painkillers and go and get some HRT or something because maybe I am perimenopausal. I don't know. I like to think I'm too young, but I think I might be.
Yeah, I am in the same boat, but I also I'm a licensed acupuncturist, so I've also
Oh,
studied
cool.
Chinese medicine for multiple years, and the liver often manifests itself on the gallbladder meridian.
Mm,
So it doesn't necessarily have to be the gallbladder; it can still be the
mm,
liver. Because for it to manifest on the liver meridian, it needs to be very, very serious. So the yin partner often manifests on the yang partner when there is a disbalance or a disharmony. It also depends on which side of the body you feel more. It's
mm,
connected to both of them. But yes, it's a whole world opened up for me when I started studying that. I studied also Ayurveda, and I even started studying a little bit of Iranian traditional medicine
oh,
because I
cool.
like being connected to these what we now call old ways. And
Mm,
I don't know how it is in your country, but in this country we have an organization and they call themselves the Organization Against Quacks. And they feel that everybody, yeah, it's that horrible. And they feel that everybody that is in alternative medicine is a quack because if it actually did something, it would be called regular medicine. That's the archaic beliefs that are in this
it's
society.
mad, isn't it? Yeah,
They have the influence on the insurance companies and the doctors. So doctors in this country don't send people to alternative healers, and
yeah,
insurance companies don't reimburse people for going to an alternative practitioner. And
yeah.
it's really sad.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, okay, you would have to pay for acupuncture, you would have to pay for Reiki. Herbs don't cost that much money, and acupuncture and Reiki is not that expensive compared to what they can get out of you if they pump you full of shitty synthetic drugs.
But I think that that is the reason why they are, we call it boycotting the acupuncture mainly, because acupuncture was never meant to be used when you're already having symptoms.
Mm,
Acupuncture, along with Ayurveda actually, are both designed as preventative medicine.
mm,
And so in China, people can go to the hospital and there's a big line and there are 20 benches and it doesn't cost anything. You can just go there and you can lie down and your pulse is being felt, needles are stuck in you, they're removed, and you can go. Because the Chinese
amazing.
government has recognized that by supporting this and keeping people healthy to begin with, they don't need all of these costly surgeries because a open heart surgery, 60K, 80K,
Mm,
So if you
Yeah.
can prevent that from happening, then there's a lots of people that you can treat for free if you don't have to have a couple of people that cost that much money to fix. So
Yeah.
it's a whole different way of looking at the body. It's a whole different way of working with the body. And these health practitioners are really designed to keep people as much in balance as possible to prevent worse from happening.
Yeah. Which is what we need, right?
Yes, because that's not how we do it here in the West. We come into action when it's already either too late or almost too late, way
Yeah.
too late, or serious already, right? And it's such a shame that there's not much room for what we call alternative or what they call alternative, because alternative medicine is not even the name that we chose ourselves to call it. So yeah, I'm really hoping that we are moving towards a more tolerant, inclusive, nature-connected world where we want everybody to succeed, where we want everybody to be their best selves, where we want everybody to be balanced and healthy, and where we want to just share in the wonderfulness that the world has to offer with each other so that we are all happy. I know
Yeah.
it sounds idealistic.
It does sound idealistic, but why not be idealistic, right? Why not be idealistic? And let's throw one more in the mix as well. Let's also fix the food supply while we're here, shall
Oh,
we?
yes. Yes.
Let's fix the food.
Yes, that is also a very important one because this summer I was diagnosed with over 100 food allergies. I was even
Wow.
allergic to normal tap water, and I
Mm.
was even allergic to the allergic response of my body. So you can imagine it turned into an autoimmune disease where my body was attacking itself, and I was basically
Mm.
killing myself while I thought I was eating healthy, biological, and
Yeah.
paying attention, right? And it's because of everything that's wrong with the health industry. We don't have enough time to talk about this, so maybe for another episode. But yes, that's definitely something that also needs to be addressed. So if we circle back to our topic, activating the wealthy witch within, what would be the best course of action to actually activate this wealthy witch?
So I think it's about building the capacity within yourself so that you actually feel safe to be all of you, to harness your gifts, to own your gifts, right? So this is your, what's the word? This is your advanced TV program, right? So people have already had their awakening. They've probably been through their burnout. They've done their therapy. They've had all these different space things. And maybe there is some stuff either from this time, lifetime, or a past life. You know, as a kid, I had a recurring dream of being murdered in a church by monks as a
No.
little kid, over and over and over and over again. Now, as an adult, I'm like, yeah, that was just a past life memory.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we have all of these reasons. We all carry this witch wound. So it's doing that work to feel safe enough to be like, well, this is who I am. These are my gifts. This is my work in the world.
Yes.
And then to work through and sift through all of that kit conditioning and all of those layers and all of that shit that says, I actually can't do this work and have enough money to eat. And to remember, I think you said it perfectly, actually, Barbara, that we got born perfect. Like we are these limitless, perfect beings. We just forget, and it's returning back to that natural place. So it's like, this is who I am. This is what I'm here to do. I'm clear on this. I feel safe to do it. And I believe that I can do it without sacrificing myself
Mm-hmm.
in this kind of new earth idyllic paradigm that we've talked about, where actually it's all available to us. Because,
Yeah.
and again, outside, we haven't got time for this now because all timelines are available to us now.
Yes. Yes. That would also be a good topic for another show. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's also what I've identified. So I think we do very similar work, which is
Mm.
also why we connected.
Yeah.
And we might go about it in a different way. We might use
Mhm.
different tools, but I think the end goal is the same, and that is to reconnect people with their authentic self, with the self that
100%.
were born into this world and the self that they were designed to be, with all the gifts and things that come with it. I call it getting to know your user manual really well. The ins and
Nice.
outs of your user manual, because in the end, that's what it's about, to form your own opinion of yourself and to truly get to know yourself and to learn how to trust in yourself and to be proud of yourself, to believe in yourself, and then to step into your power and then be that person so that you can do what you came here to do. In the end,
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
100%. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I've been loving our talk, Louise. I think we could talk for hours. Sadly, we don't have that time in today's episode, so maybe for a future episode.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that the people that have been watching, that have been listening, that have followed our conversation up until now, it would be awesome if you could let us know in the comments, maybe your biggest insight, or maybe your story that resonates with this, or maybe something else. You have a question, something that you would like to share. That would be awesome. I can also imagine that you would like to know, well, how can I get in touch with Louise? I feel connected to her, or she resonates, her energy resonates with me, and I would like to just reach out. So, how could people connect with you? Where can people find you?
Yeah. So there'll be a thing in the show notes that's got my website on, that's got all of the various bits in.
Yes.
I am Louise Lewis underscore coach on Instagram, just Louise Lewis on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I think Louise Lewis on YouTube as well. So I have a podcast called the Your Way Podcast, which goes live on YouTube and then, all the usual podcast places. Um, but yeah, reach out to me in whatever way you would like. And I would love to hear from you. And I'd love to hear how this resonates as well and how it lands. Like, I think it's so important that we start to like reclaim our natural place.
Yes. Yes. So no worries. I will make sure that all the links that Louise just mentioned are indeed included in the show notes. Probably below this video, maybe to the side, kind of depends on where you're catching this. But it would be readily available to you, as well as my own links. So you can always also reach out to me, either by sending me a message or booking a free clarity call, or follow any of the other links in the description. For today, I would like to thank you, Louise, for your wonderful presence and this really amazing talk that we had today. I loved it. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. Your little heart.
Yes, little hardback. I loved it as well. And also thank you, of course, listener, watcher, viewer out there, for your support for this channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you will never miss another video again. And if you felt that this was valuable, please share the episode so that it reaches more people. You would be doing all of us a really big favor with that. And for today, I have nothing else to say, but have an amazing rest of your day. And I look forward to inspiring all of you with another beautiful guest in next week's episode. Take care.